As you probably all know, the brand new Leica Q3 43 has already been announced and is already out. I don't know if you can purchase it yet, but the internet is full of reviews, previews, conversation, videos, and whatever. So you can get plenty of information on that camera. But as usual, like any Leica product, that camera costs a huge amount of money because it's $6,700, I guess. I'm not 100% sure, but it's around that price range. And if you're like me, you like the idea, but you cannot afford spending that much on a camera, or you cannot justify spending that much on that type of camera. You may be still thinking that the Leica Q3 43, terrible name by the way, guys, terrible name. You can still think that that camera is an aspirational camera. It's a camera that you would want to buy if money were no object, but you're gonna look elsewhere just because you cannot justify spending that much. And if you're that type of guy, I will be presenting two alternatives that I'm sure you're gonna like, and either way, you're gonna find the one that works best for you. Now, before going into the alternatives, let's chat a little bit on the Leica Q3 43. Now, I don't have the camera and I haven't tried it, but if you follow this channel, you know that I tried the Q3, the original Q3, the 28mm one. You're gonna find the video over here somewhere. And I found that camera to be a spectacular camera. Honestly, it's a very, very good camera. It's a camera that I loved a lot. And the Q3 43, it's the same exact camera, just with a 43mm lens instead of a 28, which also, in the 43mm lens, it's an f2 apochromatic lens, which means it's a lens that is going to be basically perfect with no chromatic aberration and nothing like that. Other than that, all the rest is going to be the same. So everything that I could try and I could say about the Q3 is still going to be valid for this one, with the only exception of the focal range, focal length, and the aperture, and the fact that the macro is not as macro as it is on the 28. But other than that, it's the same camera. And this means that since the Q3 was already a great camera with the perfect focal length for street photography, I still think that the Q3 43 is a perfect camera with a perfect lens for street photography, because for me, if you're like me, I like the 28 and 40mm when it comes to street photography. So in this case, 28 and 43 is the perfect combination. So this camera is relatively compact, relatively lightweight. It is built to the highest standard. The build quality is incredible. It's got a spectacular sensor, probably one of the best sensors in the market, at least for photography. It's got a spectacular lens. At least everyone say that the 43mm is a spectacular lens, so I have to believe them. And usually Leica produces great lenses, so I'm taking that for granted. It's got the Leica look, the Leica color science. It's got everything that you need to get great pictures. On top of that, the 43mm focal length is basically the normal focal length by definition. It's not 50, it's 43, because 43 is pretty much the same angle of view that you have if you exclude from your sight the peripheral vision. So this is a perfect camera for street photography, for candid photography, even for professional photography if you can live with the fixed focal length. So a very, very good camera matching great sensor with great glass, great build quality can only produce great results. And that's what the Q3 43 in this specific case was made for, and that's where that camera is going to succeed. I'm more than 100% sure. The closest alternatives that you can get for the Leica Q3 43 are two very, very different cameras. Because let's face it, there's no camera that can match what the Q3 43 does without parting ways from some of the design clues. So on one hand, you have the Ricoh GR3 43 that you see here in my hands. as you can see, is super compact and lightweight. This together with its sibling, the 28mm version, is the only big sensor, and with big I mean from micro four thirds up, that can fit in your pocket without any issue. This one and the GR3. There's no other camera that can do that. Or the other solution can be the Sony A7CR that you see in my hands over here, combined with a lens that I'm starting to like a lot, the Samyang 45mm f1.8. Now, why did I choose this combination other than, like, there is other 40mm, 45mm lenses that could be coupled with this camera, but the thing is, all of those are either f2.5 or more, or in the case of the Zeiss, it's a 40mm lens f2, but that is big as well. So you wouldn't fit the small and compact size together with being lightweight that a camera like the Q3 gets you. So this, I feel, is the sweet spot between all the potential possibilities, because the Q3 43 is an f2 lens. This is a f1.8. Going higher than f2, I think wouldn't have made an enticing combination. I don't know if that makes sense to you. Now, let's be clear on a couple of things. With none of these two, you're going to get the same image quality, the same build quality, and the same experience that you get out of the Q3 43. That is without any question. I know it because, again, I could try the 28mm version of the Q3, and the feeling, the experience is completely different. However, they can both get you, the final product is a normal focal range, focal length, in a compact and small body that it's unassuming. So while the experience is going to be different and the build quality is going to be different, and it's also the image quality is going to be different because you don't get the same lens, the same sensor, and the same color science that you get out of a Leica, you can still get great result with both of these combinations. So let's start with the Ricoh GR3X that you see in my hands over here. Now, as I mentioned before, this camera is the smallest, more compact and more lightweight, big sensor camera that you can get in the market. It's an APS-C body with 24 megapixel sensor with a 40mm equivalent, a 26.1 f2.8 lens, which translate into 39, 40mm equivalent lens, and it weighs nothing and it stays in your pocket. It's the only camera that can do that. Really, the only camera that can do that, together with its sibling, the 28mm camera. However, in order to be able to do this, to make such a small camera with such a big sensor, there's a couple of compromises that Ricoh had to face. There's no viewfinder, so that is something that is maybe on its own a deal breaker for some. If you're a viewfinder type of guy and you hate looking at your screen like this, well, this camera is not for you, because you don't get to use a viewfinder with this. Yeah, you can attach an external one, but it's not connected to it. Doesn't make too much sense. The beauty of this is it stays in your pockets. The lens has to be retractable. You see over here, once I turn it on, the lens comes out. This makes it impossible to use filters because you don't have any thread where you can put filters on. There's no articulating screen. The screen is fixed on the camera. It doesn't move anyways. And it's a good screen, don't get me wrong, it's a very good screen, I like it a lot, but it doesn't go anywhere. So if you're shooting from the hip, if you're shooting in weird position, you're not gonna see it. So you need to find ways to work around it. Also, despite the amount of buttons and dials that you can find on the camera, they're all crammed into a very small space, which makes it a little bit more complicated to use it. It's not as convenient as a bigger camera where you have your buttons and dials all spread around and easier to get in. However, it is a really impressive design choice from Ricoh, they could make a lot of controls, manual controls on this camera, despite the small size of it. Now, from an image quality standpoint, the sensor is a 24 megapixel sensor and is pretty old, we can say. It's the same sensor that equipped I believe it's the same sensor that equipped the Fuji X-T2, so that generation of cameras. But that doesn't mean that the sensor is bad. The sensor, especially for photography, it's not the best for video, but for photography, it's a great sensor. It was great back then, and it's still great now. And the lens, yes, it's retractable, yes, it's only f2.8, but damn it, that lens is good. That lens is super, super, super sharp. It was surprising to see how sharp this combination of lens and sensor is in your hands. You would expect probably to leave a lot to be desired from in the image quality department, but no, you're not leaving that much behind. Also, the color science from Ricoh, it's not Fuji, it's not Leica, but it's a very good one, and you have a couple of tricks. This camera has a couple of tricks up its sleeve that makes it very, very usable, even as a JPEG shooting only. So it's a very, very, very good camera, even from an image quality standpoint. Of course, compared to the Q3 43, this camera loses big time the depth of field game, because you're comparing a 26 millimeter, so 40 millimeters equivalent f2.8 on APS-C against a 43 millimeters f2 lens on full frame sensor. So from a depth of field standpoint, there's no comparison. You can definitely play with the depth of field a lot more with the Leica than you can with the Ricoh GR3. The user experience is completely different. The Q3 has a beautiful viewfinder. This one doesn't have any, so you're shooting in a complete different way, and you're shooting basically in a non-professional mode, which it's not an insulting thing. It's just that people get more wary of what you're doing when you put your camera like this. With this camera, you're not gonna do it, so you're gonna be moving in much more easily around, and this camera gets you an experience that basically makes you feel super stealthy. No one notices you, no one gives a shit about you, because you look like the usual tourist that is taking pictures around. You don't look like a professional, you don't scare people, people are less wary of your presence, and this is an added value. On the other hand, however, you don't get the tactile feeling that you get out of the Leica, you don't get the buttons and the possibilities that you can get out of a much bigger camera like the Leica. So user experiences are completely different. They are both good, but you either want this type of experience or you either want the Leica type of experience. They're very, very, very different. Where they are different, a lot different also, is the price, because this camera comes at slightly above $1,000 price range, which is basically a fifth of the price of the Leica Q3. So while the experience is very, very different, on the other hand, if you're looking for a small, compact, pocketable camera that has a 40 millimeters equivalent fixed lens, you don't get any better than this. And it comes at a fifth of a price. So really, really enticing product. You just need to understand whether the type of experience that you're going to get out of this camera is going to be okay for you or not. On the other end, if full frame for you is a must and you don't want to get any lower than full frame when it comes to sensor size, this is probably the combination that you're looking for, because the Sony A7CR together with this 45 millimeters from Samyang can get you very good image quality, and when I say very good, I mean it, really, really good image quality at basically half the price of the Leica Q3 43 in a similar size and weight with a different form factor and, of course, different user experience. Now, let's dive into it, and let's just start with the most obvious thing. The Samyang 45mm f1.8 is not the Leica 43mm f2 up. The Samyang is a lens that costs new less than $400. I purchased it used for 200 euros, and it's all made of plastic, and it's there's nothing premium about this lens. It feels plasticky. The only thing that it's not plastic is the connection to the lens, the metal mount. But other than that, it's a very, very cheap feeling lens. And even from an image quality standpoint, it doesn't hold the candle to the Leica Q3 43, at least from what I could see from the tests and the images that I've seen online. Especially because the Leica Q3 43 is also an apochromatic lens, which means it should kill all the chromatic aberration. The Samyang has plenty of them, especially wide open. You see a lot of chromatic aberration, which you would expect from a lens in this price range. So there's nothing shocking about it. And so from an image quality, speaking of the lens, you get a cheap flawed lens on one end, and you get a very expensive, very hyper engineered lens on the other hand. However, what the 45mm Samyang has going for it is that its flaws give it a character. And with that character, if you start to like it, if you don't care about having a perfect image, but you like having an image that you can immediately recognize, that tells you something that, because of its flaws, has a distinctive look, this 45mm may be the lens for you. Because I find that I'm starting to like a lot what this lens gives me, especially because when shooting in street photography and candid photography, family pictures, you don't necessarily need the perfect lens. You don't need clinical lenses. You need something that talks to you, that catches your attention. And sometimes the flaws of a lens build a look that catch the attention more than a perfect image. Now, of course, if you're shooting professional stuff, and sometimes you're doing product stuff and all of that, you need a perfect lens. You need that clinical look. And here's where this combination destroys what you can get out of the Leica, because we're still talking about a combination where if you get tired of one lens, or this lens doesn't fit your needs, just take it out, put another lens in, and do your thing. So you can use this lens as a street photography lens, as a candid photography lens, but then if you need something more specific, something where you need a clinical look, you can swap lenses, use another one, and call it a day. And it would, even using another lens, would still come a lot cheaper than having the Leica Q3 43. And so let's talk about the camera, because at the end of the day, the star of the show in this combo is the Sony A7CR. This is a 60 megapixel sensor camera. It's the little brother to the A7R5, a camera that is praised by everyone. It's a camera that I'm using as well. Well, this camera shares reportedly the same sensor that the Leica Q3 uses. Of course, the image processing is a lot different, so you're not going to get the same image quality just because you have the same sensor. That's where the color science and the way each manufacturer tweaks the sensor makes a difference. But the silicon seems to be the same. And so you have a very good starting point to get very good image quality. This camera has, however, and I want to push those things out of the way at first, as a couple of things that for the price, because this camera is more than $3,000 MSRP, should not be there, or should not be like this. And those are things that I hate, and I understand why they're there, but still, for the price, they shouldn't have been like that. And I'm talking about the viewfinder, which is very small compared to the Leica. This one pales. Yes, it's usable, but it's not a viewfinder that gives you a great experience. Even the monitor on the back, it's decent, but it should have been better in my opinion. The Leica one is a much better screen. Yes, this one flips like this, which is something that the Leica cannot do. But other than that, this is the only advantage, because for all the rest, both the EVF and the screen on the Leica are much better than what this camera gets you. Another thing that I hate is the lack of a joystick for assigning the autofocusing point, because sometimes you want to decide, you don't want to base everything on the wide area and the continuous tracking. Sometimes you want to decide where to put it, and the lack of a joystick, I'm getting used to it, but still, from an experience standpoint, it's something that I feel like it's missing. It would have changed in a dramatically positive way the way you feel shooting with this camera. But those things aside, you get a lot of a camera for the price here. You get a camera that it's much more flexible than the Leica Q3 will ever be. It's a decent video camera. It doesn't get the 8K if I'm not wrong, but who cares? I don't think you're ever going to use the 8K on the Leica either. And in general, it's more flexible from an accessories standpoint. It's more flexible for the fact that you can change lenses. Let's just say you like the idea of having a Q3 normal and a Q3 43. With this one, you just purchase two lenses, you slap it on here, and without camera, two lenses, you get the same possibilities that you have with a couple of Leicas. And if you want to be really comparing two bodies, you can purchase two bodies of these and two lenses for pretty much the same price of the Leica Q3 43. So still, you can get a lot of camera and a lot of usability out of this system for the money. Now, going back to the topic, how this compares to the Q3. Well, I think I already mentioned that. The Q3 as a package is a much more pleasing package to use. Even though this one is an experience that is much closer to the Q3 compared to what the Ricoh GR3X can get you, we're still far away from the polish of the experience that you have with the Leica Q3. But other than that, I find that I'm liking a lot what I'm getting from this combo. And I'm using this combo quite a bit not for professional use, mostly for my personal use, for street photography, for candid. And I'm starting to like the look that I get out of this combination. If I have to find something to complain about, is the fact that the autofocus with this lens hunts a lot more than any other lens that I have in the Sony system. So that is something to be aware of. Now, the Leica Q3, the one that I tried, has a very good autofocus, but it's still not the best in the market. So I don't think the autofocus, some unreliability of the focus with this lens would make a dramatic difference. Still, it's silent, and when it nails focus, it's a really nice combination. Also, I like, as I mentioned, the idea of 28 and 40. And I have a very small and cheap combo with the 24 Viltrox that is recording me right now. You're seeing it mounted on the A7R5. And this 45mm f1.8. I didn't spend that much. Yes, I know I'm talking about cheap lenses and you're comparing them to very expensive products. But you can. The fact of using a body like this, which is mirrorless, allows you to use those. And if these lenses are good, and 24 is good for sure, this one is good for sure, who cares about how much they cost? Yeah, the experience is not the same. Yeah, the build quality is not the same. Yes, this is a 24, not a 28. I know Viltrox makes a 28 as well. I haven't tried it, so I cannot speak for it. But also the 28 on the Q3 is not necessarily a 28, it's more of a 26. So at the end of the day, 24 and 26 is not that much of a difference, and 43 with 45 is not that much of a difference either. So bottom line, I find that this combination is probably, if you're looking at a camera that gets you all the things that you want in a camera, including the viewfinder and all that, you don't care about the camera being pocketable, I think this combination makes a lot of sense. And don't get me wrong, if another lens, a 43mm, 40mm f2, comes out and it's better than this, I will review that lens for sure, because I love the 40 millimeters equivalent, 40 millimeters length, and I'm sure that I'm gonna like that lens. But for now, this is the combination to go if you're looking for something similar. Now, comparing these less expensive products to Leica product may sound blasphemy to some, but what matters in the end is your satisfaction and the images that you take home. And if you can take the images that you want out of a different combination that costs you less, well, that's a good thing about living this age. We have so many opportunities and so many alternatives that it's worth exploring them and it's worth giving it a try. So, to wrap this video up, if you crave a premium experience, if you crave a camera like the Q3 or the Q3 43 and you have the money for it, go for it. And if you can, go for both of them, because you're gonna get a combination that is a killer combo, which is still gonna be worth a lot of money, even a lot of years after you've purchased it. That's another perk of you shooting Leica. Their cameras don't lose value as much as other cameras do. So that is another investment, if you want to call it like that. And you're going to get the premium experience. You're never going to be disappointed by those cameras. They're that good. And again, those are the golden standard when it comes to this type of setup. On the other hand, however, if you like the idea, but you cannot afford a Leica, these two alternatives that I gave you can be pretty good. Of course, you gotta decide what is a deal breaker for you. For some, the lack of a viewfinder is a deal breaker and they will never look at the Ricoh. On the other hand, for some, being pocketable makes a world of a difference, and they will never gonna look for the Leica either, just because it wouldn't fit their pocket. But those two are very powerful and very powerful tools that can get you very good images and a nice experience, an experience that is nice enough not to feel like you're using crappy products, and the image quality is really good with both. Of course, if you're a full-frame shooter, you don't like APS-C, you're not gonna look at the Ricoh. But don't dismiss that camera just because it's an APS-C camera. It's a great camera, and the fact that it's pocketable makes a world of a difference, because you can carry it with you without even thinking about it. All the other combinations require at least a separate bag to bring with you. But either way, whichever you choose, you're gonna get a tool that is gonna get you very good pictures that you're gonna be super proud of, and you will be proud of sharing, because people are gonna look at them and are gonna like them for sure. That's something I can ensure you, because I've been using both combinations for quite a while now, and there's still a wow factor to both of them. Well, that's it for today. Ciao, and I'll see you in the next one.